Hey guys, today's an exciting day. Today is the Arnold Classic Bikini International 2020 competition, and prejudging just ended. And let's go into review and analyze what's happening here in prejudging. So, no surprise at the big three that got a callback with Angelica, Issa, and Janet. Obviously, last year's Janet is the defending champion of the Arnold Classic. And Issa just won the Olympia, with Angelica being the winner of the Olympia last year, coming back to the Arnold Classic stage for a vengeance. Now, look at the top six. I'm really surprised to see Priscilla in there. I'm not surprised because of her physique. It just wasn't someone that I saw getting in the top six at this show. I thought she was going to be a little bit later on in the callouts. And man, she put together an amazing package. Really, really happy to see her in that grouping. I'm sure she's stoked. I'm a big fan of her physique, and it looks like she has made a big step, big leap forward in making herself as one of the elites in the league. So congratulations, Priscilla. Jen Ron obviously has always been a contender. No surprise that she's in there too. As you know, Jen Ron did really good at the Olympia. I think she got second at the Olympia in 2000. I want to say 17, if I'm right. But she is no joke. So obviously seeing her there. But let's get into the group of girls that is going to be in the top three, which is going to be Angelica, Issa, and Janet. Now, I want to give special mention to Itala, who made it in the top six. Very happy for her. She is so kind and so humble. Loving what she brought to the package today, to the show today. So let's go ahead and look at it. So first call out, Janet, Angelica, Issa, right in the group. They do their initial comparisons, go to the backside. And this is really where everyone was looking at, what is Angelica going to bring? You know, in her pictures that she was posting on Instagram, you didn't see anything from the back. You saw her front, but Angelica it's never going to be a question if her front side is going to be in shape. Her waistline is always super small. She's always conditioned. She's someone that holds just a little bit more body fat and a little bit harder to get her glutes in shape. Now, I think that Angelica getting a third placing at the Olympia really lit a fire under her, because we have never seen her glutes look like this. It is insane. Angelica got to another level at this show. I mean, I have never seen her glutes look this in shape. If you look at her glutes here and look at her glutes at the Olympia, I mean, it is night and day difference with the conditioning levels that she brought. Now, in my opinion, Angelica always had a little bit thicker of legs in terms of muscularity for compared to a lot of the other girls. If you look at her next to Janet, and you look at her next to Issa, how dominant her legs are and how kind of how hard her legs are. So that's one of the things that's going to be a variable. Okay, if her glutes are this condition, of course her legs are going to be in better condition. Now, with her having bigger legs, is that going to be a factor, and is that going to hurt her or help her? And that's yet to be determined. If you look at Angelica and you look at her overall development, even in her calves versus everyone else, you'll see that she just has a sharper, like more dense look. So look at her calves next to Janet, look at her calves next to Issa, and you can just see the density of the muscle between these three being a lot different. The difference of legs in Janet and Issa versus Angelica it's pretty significant. Now, if you look at the difference of legs with Angelica and Itala, even then, even though Itala has a little bit more muscular strength, muscular legs, her density is still quite a bit a cut above. So is that going to be a positive? Is that going to be a negative? We will see as time goes on tonight, before when judging is done. So, or when finals happens. So, but one thing I will say is she did her homework. She really brought it today. She couldn't have been really any better in her conditioning. I mean, any more conditioned than that, it'd be too much. So Janet, being the defending champion, she's holding center, split center with Angelica. Issa, the current Miss Olympia, is outside right now, but movement is about to happen. So we'll go into Issa's frame in a second and what's happening with her frame after they go through this little movement here. So this has happened at judging. This is the initial group, this initial movement, and let's see what happens here with this movement. Okay, so Janet, Issa swap places, and it looks like a Brazilian 1 and 2 right now, with Issa and Angelica going into the direct comparisons side by side. So in my opinion right now, it's looking like Issa is going to probably win this, with Angelica being second and Janet being third. But there's, this is bikini. A lot can go on in bikini. Now, one of the things I want to point out with the posing differences between these girls, I'm going to go ahead and go back to this close up here with Isa. So when you see Isa posing, she poses stronger than most bikini athletes, but she's so petite that it works really well for her. But look at how, and actually I think I can go to a better spot on this. Look at how she holds her lat versus a lot of the other girls. You can see this lat, huge V taper up top, great rounded shoulders, but not too much. It's not over the top, and that's why she can get away with it. You'll see a lot of girls doing this lat flare, and that's actually pretty common these days now. Almost everyone's doing the lat flare in this front pose, but Isa has such a petite structure, and it's just such a perfect, bubbly structure with these really high lats that really offsets her waistline and makes her just look totally freaky, which is just so cool to see. Her structure is a cut above really anyone's structure in the game, besides who I would say Daraja, I think, has a really close structure to her. And I think when she maxes out her frame and really puts it together, which I know they're doing over at that camp and fine-tuning things, that she's going to be a real contender up there for the elite of the elite. I was a little surprised that she didn't get in this first call out, just because she's got so much momentum coming into this. Her shape is so great. And, she brought together a pretty good package today, too. I thought that would have been a strong argument that she could have been in this group. So, but let's go ahead and look at her breakdown of Isa. The main thing we talk about Isa is the wow factor, the tiny, tiny waist, the wide lats, but not overpowering, the great musculature without any of that density that we really don't want to see in bikini, where it's too much, too grainy, too vascular. This is the perfect balance. And if you look at her overall shape, when you look at balance from upper to lower body and from front to back, it's perfectly balanced without being too much. So it's hard to beat someone that has a structure like this, that is so balanced at the same time, that can have so much muscle and pose so hard without being over the top, which is just such a rare thing. Now, one of the things that you'll talk to the judges about, the upper judges, they don't want to see certain things, which is overdeveloped adductors, too much hamstring, and you notice that these girls are pretty much pushing it right at that limit, okay? Now, Isa, you don't see too much of that. You don't see too much of that graininess in her hamstring. You don't see too much of the adductors, and really on all these girls, but you shouldn't, in that top six, not see too much of it. You're starting to see just a little bit of that separation down here on that lower hamstring of Itala, but that's pretty much the only one you're starting to see a little bit where it might be considered too much. Now, a little bit here you're seeing in Priscilla, but as you can see in the group, for the most part, for all of you out there, all of you bikini competitors who are saying, oh, I want those crazy hamstrings where you're seeing those separation lines, look at the best girls in the world and look how they don't have it. They get right to that point where it shows and then they stop. That's about where you want to be. Look at the taper of Janet's legs. Look at her legs, how they're not crazy powerful, but she's still number 2 in the world right now, okay? So just take that into account when you're putting together your workout program with your coach and say, hey, you know what, even though you think it looks cool, which it really does to have all those crazy lines, it's not going to help you. The top girls in the world do not have that. So don't go past what they would do to get there. Now, when you're watching the walk here, one of the important things to look for, and this is why the judges walk the bikini competitors, is to see how much shake they have in their glutes. Now, these are the top 6 at the Arnold. They're not going to have any shake to their glutes. But you can see here, it's just rock solid, and you did not see that from Angelica at the Olympia. There was just a little bit of softness to her. She said she was standing for maybe too long because she was the very last one to compete on the Olympia stage, because she was the current champ, and started holding some water, especially in her glutes. And as you can see today, she figured out that problem. I think that her and Kim really put together an awesome package. Now, let's look at the differences of posing with Janet and with Isa, right? Isa has that lat that she flares out, and look at Janet. She keeps it somewhat reserved. You can see a little bit of it, but for the most part, she keeps it reserved and doesn't overpower it. Janet has a totally different look than Isa. Structurally is not going to have that same type of crazy structure as Isa, but she puts together that really fitness model bikini physique that has its wow factors. It's crazy wow factors because of the shape. And I think a lot of her crazy shape comes from, if you look at Janet, if you see her in person, she's kind of standing there, she's got really wide shoulder base, and that helps her with giving this crazy wide structure versus her small waistline. And she also has really wide set hips, which really helps her with that offset of shoulder to waist to hip ratio. I mean, honestly, she probably has one of the better shoulder to waist to hip ratios in the game, just based on her structure. And she really maximizes that by not overdeveloping her legs and by getting her glute tie-ins to show at a really high level. Actually, she has some pretty well-developed glute tie-ins, but she doesn't have those crazy hamstrings that are over-dominating her upper body. And because they're not so developed, it makes her glutes look even bigger because of the ratios. And people don't understand that. They just want to get everything big. But Janet's really a student of the game and has really kind of done her homework on what areas to work to give that balance, but to also give that wow factor without being too much. Now, I am still not sure if they're going to say that Angelica's new look, her with her glutes, is too much. We will see. I mean, I don't know. It's right. It's definitely pushing the limits, and I think that was a really smart move on Angelica. I'm a risk taker myself. I think that, hey, if you didn't win it this year, you didn't win the Olympia this year, you should go for it. Give them what they're asking for. Push as hard as you can, and whatever happens, happens. At least you're going to know if that was too much or not enough. So I think that that's a smart risk for her to take at the Arnold, and then she can fine tune it from here to the Olympia. If they say it's too much, she can pull it back a little bit. If they say they want more, at least she knows, hey, I guess I got 6 months or so to develop this. So as it finishes off in the grouping, it looks like it's going to be Issa, Angelica, and Janet. No surprises there. You could have flipped any of these three around and it wouldn't have been a surprise. This is kind of how I had it set from the beginning. I thought I was going to kind of go this way because I knew that Angelica was going to bring something different. Angelica, you don't get to being number one in the world, be Miss Olympia, if you aren't crazy dedicated to it, if you don't have a fire in you, if you're not tenacious on the inside. On the outside, Angelica, she's the sweetest girl in the world, but she is an absolute competitor. You do not become Miss Olympia if you are not an absolute beast on the inside with so much drive. So I think it was an amazing group of girls. I think that they got it right. A little surprised at a couple of the ones there, not in a bad way, just in a happy way. Good for them. Really, out of the girls that were there, you could have put any of them in the top 6 and there's an argument for it. So I'm happy to see. I think in the finals it's going to be Issa, then Angelica, and then Janet, and then that's going to set up the Olympia for a very exciting Olympia versus what looks to be another Issa versus Angelica type of Olympia. Issa, Angelica, and Janet. So what will happen then? Will Janet be able to pull enough improvements by the Olympia to take back her number 2 spot from maybe Angelica? Will Angelica have enough momentum after this show and know what to do to correct and make improvements to take out Issa? It's going to be an exciting, exciting year. This sets it all up for something really amazing to happen at the Olympia. I'm super pumped. So my analysis, hopefully you guys like it. Hopefully you learned a thing or two. Thanks so much for watching.